Please join me in standing as James Good leads the board's opening prayer.
Our Father, we are so thankful for this beautiful day you blessed us with, but especially we have this privilege this evening to assemble here, not only to transact the business of this school district, but to be able to recognize very special individuals in our community and in our school district. Father, we're so thankful for all of those who are willing to give of their time for all of our students. Father, we also have many guests in here, and we thank you for our guests, and may they glean from this meeting our focus and our determination to ensure that all of our students are successful. And Father, as we transact the business of this school district, give us the wisdom, the guidance, and the understanding that all of our decisions will benefit this district, especially it will help our students to become very successful. And Father, give us the understanding that we need to be able to show that respect to all individuals as we go through this business. And bless us, Father, each and every day of our lives as we strive to serve you. And this is our prayer in your loving Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing as Richard Fleming leads the board in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank y'all for joining us here tonight. As a district, we dedicate all our efforts and resources to the education and improvement of all students. The board uses this mission to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions. You will get to see all deliberations, decisions, and actions of the board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in a closed session as stipulated in the Texas Government Code, Section 551, commonly known as the Open Meetings Law. For the record, we're all here tonight. We do constitute a quorum and can conduct business on behalf of the district. That being said, I'll turn the meeting and gavel over to Dr. Burns for Agenda Item 1A, welcome and announcements.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Welcome, everyone. We are honored that you have chosen to spend a little bit of your evening with us tonight. We're going to begin with the recognition of our VIPs. And I'd like to start with a quote from a famous philosopher, Dr. Seuss. Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. VIPs, tonight we are here to celebrate you and the ones before you, our very important professionals. Our outstanding CFB educators, this is our way of saying thank you. And for being you, teacher, educator, caregiver, and friend, and much more. You work relentlessly every day to help all your students achieve at the highest levels. You give unselfishly, you care, you work diligently. That's you, and that's why we're here to celebrate you. So friends and family, please stand when your you is introduced so we can recognize you as well. And now, Ms. Klein, will you please join me in the front to greet our VIPs.
Good evening, President Klein, Dr. Burns, and members of the board. My name is Debbie Williams, principal of Kent Elementary. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce and honor Marty Neville as a member of the very important profession of teaching. Mrs. Neville has served the children of CFB for 15 years as a substitute teacher, a PPCD teacher at McWhorter, and is currently the Behavior Resource Specialist, or BRS, at Kent. Being a BRS requires a person to have special skills and have an understanding of children and their emotions. Marty works directly with students to teach them social and behavior skills which support their success. Mrs. Neville often coordinates teachers, parents, administrators so that all are working together for the child. Needless to say, Marty is very good at her job. She is so good that I wonder if she uses behavior modification techniques on me. And she does. The Kent staff loves working with Marty. She is always willing to help when a need arises. She frequently covers duties and does tasks just to make others' jobs easier. She approaches every situation with a smile, a giggle, and a sense of calmness. I wrote to a parent and asked them to tell me about Marty, and this is the email I got back. Marty Neville has been working with my son at Kent Elementary since he was in kindergarten. He struggles with behavior caused by ADHD, and she has always treated him with patience, love, and compassion. It is because of her heart of gold that my son loves her and is willing to work with her. As a parent, I am so grateful that my special needs child is receiving the endless support that Marty has given him. She is an amazing woman, and I don't know how my child or his teachers would get through the school day without her. And I personally couldn't get through the school day without you either. Her husband, Tom, is here tonight to celebrate. Kent Elementary is proud to recognize Marty Neville as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Burns. As principal of Tom Landry Elementary, I am here tonight to introduce to you our newest member in the very important profession of teaching, Mr. Sean Putt. Mr. Putt is our 3- and 4-year-old PPCD teacher and has been at CFB ISD in Landry for the last 6 years. In his journey, he has helped many young students learn to cope with the demands of the classroom life. He is patient, kind, and committed to helping our little ones with special needs feel loved and safe. Every morning, the students' faces light up when they see Mr. Putt as they walk in the gym. He greets them with a smile, letting them know he is there for them. This gives the parents a sense of peace that their children are going to be loved, challenged, and will learn throughout their school day. One parent said, "This is our last child of 5. We have been to Montessori schools, parochial schools, and private schools, and Mr. Putt is by far the best teacher we have ever met." Another parent said, "I'm amazed at the progress my child has made with Mr. Putt." One of his colleagues said, "As a former pre-K teacher, I had years of watching Mr. Putt invest endless patience, love, and in these little ones. With amazement, I saw him work his magic on children with special needs. You don't realize what a miracle this is unless you saw these children when they first arrived." Mr. Putt continues to do amazing things and makes incredible progress with our kids. Many of us don't realize that all is accomplished because Mr. Putt humbly and diligently carries out his calling without need of acclaim or accolades. He is a star in my book. I too have experienced his positive, non-judgmental attitude. Many parents tell us how difficult his or her child is, but Mr. Putt puts them at ease with his caring and compassionate approach that their child will learn and progress. He communicates high expectations for all his students in all they do. He is also always vigilant and alert. He has cleared many airways of choking children, saved them from swings near their heads, and guided wandering ones back into the fold. Year after year, he continues to guide his children to become ready for kindergarten. The word is out. Mr. Putt is remarkable. Tom Landry and CFB are indeed fortunate to have Mr. Putt as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
Good evening. As principal at La Villita Elementary, I'd like to introduce to you our teacher, our VIP, Megan Britton.
Megan is an outstanding teacher who goes above and beyond helping her students. She's a positive person, a team player, and will help anyone in need. Her teammate really summarizes the way that the staff at La Vita feels about Megan, and she wrote the following. When I enter Miss Britton's classroom during instructional time, 9 times out of 10, it takes me a full minute to find her. I'm not the only staff member who experiences this. We joke amongst ourselves that this happens because she's vertically challenged, so she blends in well with a group of 10 and 11-year-olds. But when I really sit back and think about it, I realize that Miss Britton could be 10 feet tall, and I still wouldn't be able to find her in that group of kids. She's down there with them, working, understanding, helping, guiding, all the time. She gives the same dedication to our staff, always helping out, offering collaborative ideas and encouragement. While it may be true that Miss Britton is small in stature, she is a huge, wonderful presence at La Vita, and it's a privilege to work with her. You know, we all know how important it is to establish relationships with students, and this is Megan's gift, and I think it's a gift that Megan doesn't realize she has. The students respect her, and they'll do whatever it needs to be done. I've never seen a student that Megan cannot reach. When we talked to our 5th grade students and we asked them to share their thoughts, they were quite eager to share their thoughts. And they have said, Miss Britton deserves a huge thank you because she comes to school with a smile on her face that makes me smile, and everyone else in her room feels happy and excited to learn. She treats everyone with fairness and respect. She makes everyone believe that they have the potential to do anything. Miss Britton is like our inner voice. She's always there to tell us right from wrong. Times with Miss Britton will stay with me forever. We all hope that Miss Britton will stay at La Vita forever because she has high expectations, is committed to student achievement, and remember, she's the only math and science teacher we have, and she is a huge part of our success at La Vita Elementary. We're proud, Megan, to recognize you as our VIP.
Good evening, Mrs. Klein, Dr. Burns, and members of the school board. I am Matthew Pruitt, Assistant Principal at McWhorter Elementary School. What a joy it is to join you tonight in recognition of McWhorter Elementary School's newest member of the very important profession of teaching, Tony Alsanders. Tony was voted our Staff of the Month as well as our VIP. Some of her colleagues wrote that Tony is a great friend to have and she's fun to be around. Tony's enthusiasm is contagious. She's a determined teacher with a smile and sometimes sassy attitude. She has an upbeat personality. She is always positive and inspiring. Her smile is infectious. Just thinking of it can make you smile yourself. Tony joined CFB-ISD and the McWhorter family in 2007. During that time, she's been a team leader, taught kindergarten and 1st grade. She currently serves as one of our fabulous 4th grade teachers. She has such great ideas, spends a lot of time doing research and finding activities, anchor charts, and ways to do things. She is happy to share anything she finds with others and does not ask for credit. She is always willing to help out teachers in need, even those not on her grade level. She has a desire and willingness to do what's best for each child based on individual needs. Tony goes above and beyond to help her students achieve. She always tries different ways of teaching the material to help her students understand. She often stays late and works weekends to prepare for lessons and assessments. She is a great volunteer. She comes up with super ideas and shares them with everyone. She is always willing to lend a hand and smiles the whole time she is helping. She takes ideas given to her through various trainings or co-workers and implements them in her classroom. Tony helped start a summer reading program at McWhorter because she noticed the need to keep our students from backtracking. She doesn't let anything keep her down. She just keeps on going and going and going. One of Ms. Alexander's students said, "I like Ms. Alexander as a teacher. When we have a hard time, she's willing to help us. But most of all, she is nice, generous, kind, and sweet." Another student said, "She tries her hardest to help us get better at what we do. She is a very, very nice teacher, but she will get on to us if we need it." It is my honor and privilege to recognize Tony Alexander as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
You know, before I really get into this, and I do this every single time, but when we write our Word documents, button up there you click and it says word count, and it'll tell you if you go over the 250 word limit. You all did.
You all did.
Don't count those words against me. Dr. Burns, members of the board, I am Lance Hamlin, the principal of Blalock Middle School. We are here tonight to introduce you to our newest member in the very important profession of teaching, Ms. Holly Millar. Ms. Millar started her teaching career in Oklahoma 13 years ago, and after 5 years, she realized it was time to move to Texas. She has been at Blalock Middle School for the past 8 years as a 7th grade science teacher and instructional leader. When I asked students in our school to tell me something about their teacher, they responded. Ms. Millar is extremely nice. She's funny. She teaches us a lot of science stuff. Most importantly, she loves us. I asked students to give me some specific examples of why she's such a great teacher. Students responded with things like this. She teaches us things we need to know, not only about science, but about life. Another student stated, she's easy to talk to. She expects us to listen, but she does not expect us to do everything on our own. If I need help, she is there. Ms. Millar loves us. That is why we listen to her. We know that she does not always assume the worst. She listens to us first. The staff at Blalock expressed the following thoughts about Holly. She is the ultimate team player. When you need guidance, she is always willing to do whatever it takes to help. Holly is an extremely effective teacher. Her style instantly encourages students to love science. She has created an environment where students are independent thinkers. She is a teacher that makes it very clear that she loves her job. Holly puts kids first. And the one that really touches my heart, she teaches for the students, not to the students. Holly incorporates her caring personality into her work as a teacher, and I believe the person, not the subject, makes an effective teacher. She is truly making a difference in the lives of our students. Holly, as a principal of Blalock Middle School, I am extremely fortunate to have you as part of our Blalock family. Blalock Middle School and CFB are indeed fortunate to have Ms. Holly Millar as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
Good evening, Dr. Burns, Ms. Chafin, Board President, School Board, distinguished guests, Dan F. Long, colleagues, staff members. My name is Joe Copeland. I'm the principal of Dan F. Long Middle School. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you our newest member to the very important profession of teaching, Stephanie Perry. Mrs. Perry has been with DFL, Dan F. Long, for 5 years. She's the proud parent of 2 beautiful children, Logan and Grace, and a very flexible husband, Colin. They all know her Mother Goose style not only applies to them, but to all of the students at her school. Stephanie started with Long as a past and special education English fundamentals teacher and transitioned to mostly a fundamentals teacher in time. In both roles, she created a warm and inviting atmosphere that propelled small groups of students toward the grade level performances they needed and desperately desired. In the middle of the year, our SPED department, our special ed department, was going through a major transformation. Stephanie stepped up to the plate and vowed to get us on track. She began helping with many additional SPED duties, such as attending more ARDs and writing IEPs, and those dreaded PLAFs. When her efforts took a lot of extra time and bled into her family time with young children, I discouraged her from working so hard. She told me, "Mr. Copeland," and she paused, "there's a lot that needs to be done. I need to have access to the school." Stephanie stayed at work late in the evenings and worked on many weekends. She and our staff worked hard with district personnel to accomplish the vision for an efficient SPED department at Long Middle School. At the beginning of this academic year, she became our SPED director. In this role, Stephanie has maintained her high standards of helping students become successful. Stephanie's leadership and compassion for students and colleagues makes her one of the brightest stars in our district. Staff and students alike adore Stephanie. One teacher notes, "Stephanie always does what is best for students. Always. She works very hard and helps all the departments all the time." Another teacher says, "She is an advocate for all of our students and always fights to make sure they receive the best education possible." I've never seen someone more focused than Stephanie Perry. The students all agree. It's not unlikely for students to be crowded around her when she walks down the hall or are eager to help to get to, in order to get to CM because of her caring nature. One student said, "Mrs. Perry is the nicest, most helpful teacher I've ever known. She's always smiling and makes other people feel welcome. When you're down, she'll pick you up with her kind words." Another student said, "She's respectful, nice, and always willing to help people out. But man, she's mean." She really doesn't mind helping us out. Because of her compassion for students and commitment to excellence, Mrs. Perry is Dan F. Long's newest member to the very important profession of teaching.
You know, every great school district has to have a great community. And every great community has a group of people that are always dedicated to do what's needed to help the community and the school district. Tonight we have a special recognition, and we'd like to recognize the Christ Community Connection and consider a proclamation recognizing Black History Month. Tonight the board will consider this special proclamation celebrating Black History Month with a special involvement from Christ Community Connection, and we'd like for Mr. Willie Rainwater and Juanita Rainwater to come forward. Give them a big hand. Vice President James Good will now read the proclamation, and the Reverend Willie Rainwater and Miss Juanita Rainwater will accept.
Have to read it first. Whereas the Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District takes pride in joining Christ Community Connection and Americans throughout this country and various parts of the world in recognizing February 2013 as Black History Month. And whereas Black History Month celebrates the contributions that Black Americans have made to American history in their struggles for freedom and equality, and deepens our understanding of our nation's history. And whereas Black History Month had its origin in 1915 and was initiated in 1926 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson as Black History Week. During the month of February, as it coincided with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, two key figures in the history of Black Americans. And whereas in 1976, this commemoration of Black history in the United States was expanded to Black History Month. And whereas in 1986, President Reagan proclaimed the foremost purpose of Black History Month is to make all Americans aware of the struggle for freedom and equal opportunity. And whereas this year's theme, At the Crossroads of Freedom and Equality, the Emancipation Proclamation and the March on Washington, corresponds with the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation and the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. And whereas the Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District recognizes the significant contribution Black Americans have made in our community, state, nation, and the world in education, medicine, art, culture, public service, politics, and human rights. And whereas we thank Christ Community Connection for their support and commitment to our students and families. And we appreciate how the members of Christ Community Connection have helped our students learn the important history and significant contributions of Black Americans in our community, state, nation, and world. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District hereby proclaims February 2013 as Black History Month.
Ms. Klein. I'd like to recommend that the board pass this resolution as presented.
Mr. Shore?
With great pride, I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Scrivener.
We're going to have the proclamation framed and present to you guys. We have framed. But while Willie and Juanita are up here, I want to make a special announcement and an invitation. We have a special event coming up here soon that wouldn't have been possible without these two. I mean, if you want something done in this community, you come right here to these two people, and they will get it done. So we are honored tonight to announce that and to remind everyone that the district and Christ Community Connection on February 23rd at 3 p.m. at R.L. Turner High School in the auditorium for a celebration of Black History Month. We'll be honoring also the City of Carrollton's 100th birthday. So we invite all of you to come, R.L. Turner, on the 23rd of February at 3 p.m. Thank you, Willie and Juanita. Thank you. Ms. Klein, we have a few more announcements we'd like to share with the audience and our board.
Good evening and welcome back to a brand new edition of the Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District School Board announcements for the month of February. CFB's annual Gently Used book sale is right around the corner. This year, it's taking place at the Northcrest Village Shopping Center at 3044 Old Denton Road, Suite 131 in Carrollton. Hardcover and paperback books will be available for purchase February 28th through March 3rd. Here's a list of times and prices for that week. On February 28th and March 1st, the book sale takes place from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Hardcover books on these dates will be $2 and all paperback books will be $1. On March 2nd, the doors open at 10 a.m. and we will be there until 7 p.m., where all hardback books will be $1 and paperbacks will be just 50 cents. The final day of purchase on March 3rd, we will have special hours from noon to 6 p.m. All hardbacks will be $1, paperbacks 50 cents, and a box of books will only be $12. We are still taking donations for this great event. Donations can be taken to your near CFB campus. Next week, on Wednesday, February 13th, is early release day at all district campuses, excluding Early College High School. The early release schedule for staff development is as follows. Elementary schools and pre-K afternoon classes will release in the morning at 10:40 a.m. Then high schools will be right after that at 11:20 a.m. Middle schools will release later in the day at 12 noon. B. Salazar releases at 10:35 a.m., while Mary Grimes will release their students at 12:45 p.m. Sorry, Early College, your campus will not release early on this day. Well, that's it for us tonight. Our next regular school board meeting is Thursday, March 7th at 7 p.m. in the boardroom of the Administration Building at 1445 North Perry Road in Carrollton. And our next work study for our school board members will be on February 21st at 6:30 p.m. And don't forget, make sure to stop by www.cfbisd.edu/testimonial and tell us how much you love CFB. While you're there, be sure to check out all the great things parents, teachers, students, and the community are saying about our great district. Good night.
Ms. Klein, members of the board, that concludes our announcements for tonight.
Did I hear any announcement about Casey's run yet?
Not yet.
March 23rd.
Sign is on the
23rd.
door, and I do believe that Mr. Shore has been in training.
Duh.
I welcome any of y'all that want to come out and try to walk and run faster than Mr. Shore.
Yeah. Good luck.
So, but March 23rd, so that's the Saturday after spring break is over.
That's correct.
So
The
a
race
full week.
starts at 8:30 a.m. at Standard Stadium.
Not too early. I'd like to thank all the schools that brought your VIPs and introduced them to us tonight. We really appreciate the time the teachers take away from their schedule to come help us honor the VIPs. The principals, we appreciate your kind words, even if they run over 250. I do think sassy can be a compliment for a person. And at the end, he made it up with a couple of real flattering adjectives. So, but I thank you for what you do with our students with the special needs, the 3- and 4-year-olds, bless you, all the kids that y'all work with, and even the ones that have worked with my kids. So thank you for what you do. I know it's not easy. So thank you for, as Dr. Burns said, being you. So we are blessed. We're also blessed to have Willie and Juanita Rainwater in our community because they really do take on a lot of large tasks, and they don't give up. They're really good at drafting people in to help them, and they do it with an excitement that is, contagious. And we really are lucky to have such tireless volunteers in our community. So I told Mr. Rainwater I'd put it in my calendar so I can be there for the celebration. I didn't get to because I was in front, so now I got to remember to do it. But I think it's February 23rd. So I should be able to remember that because it's exactly a month before Casey's preparatory race with Mr. Shore. And February 23rd, and it's not at 8:30, it's at 3.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
3 o'clock.
but we are very lucky for all the programs we have in our community. We have so many neat shows at the high schools and just opportunities, Veterans Days, and just everything that we do. And what did you do? You made people come in and learn how to read in the summer. All the things, it's just really exciting what we do for our kids and to help keep everybody encouraged. So, and Dr. Burns, it's kind of through your leadership, I think you're a silent prodder. So at this time, we're going to take a short break for any of y'all that don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting. We're going to be coming back to number 2, report by superintendent on student achievement to do with writing. But we're also, after that, going to have audience for guests. And if you would like to sign up to speak during the 3-minute time allotted per person for audience for guests, there's forms outside on the table, and Miss Sharon Scrivener here on the corner will be accepting those forms. So we're going to take a 10-minute break at 7:35, and we'll see y'all back at 7:45, adjourning for now.
Good job.
I'm reading more than
Hi, I'd like to reopen the board meeting at 7:46 p.m. on February 7th, 2013. And agenda item 2, report by superintendent. 2A is presentation on student achievement, writing K through 12. Dr. Burns?
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Members of the board, as you know, each week we highlight, each board meeting, we highlight our student achievement areas that we are proud of, as well as those that we are working on, and sometimes those are both. We're proud of them, and we're still working on it to try to improve. Tonight, writing is a special place for me. Being an ex-language arts teacher, writing and reading are extremely important. And so before I introduce our presenters tonight, I have this little passage from a neurologist who is, her name's Dr. Judy Willis. She's a neurologist, but now she's a teacher consultant. Okay? And Dr. Willis says, writing is, by nature, an opportunity for creativity and personal expression. When writing is incorporated in learning and assessment, there is increased opportunity to produce the ideal situation for active, attentive learning because students value creative problem solving or creative production. Furthermore, students are more likely to apply the effort, collaborate successfully, ask questions, revise work, and review foundational knowledge because they want to know what you have to say to them. So we're going to start with our writing presentation tonight with that context, that writing is important and it makes a big, huge difference in learning. And so I'm proud to introduce Erica Isbrand and Dr. Shirley Wright and Miss Susan Kelly. And if you haven't been to any of these ladies' staff development, you're missing something because they do a tremendous job. And, writing is a journey, okay? And we're on this long journey together as well as reading. But we are being led by three great people in that journey. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
The Animoto video you're about to see was inspired by a YouTube video titled Did You Know?, which focuses on changes that impact education because of the advances in technology, thinking, and the world.
The advances in technology that aren't working right now. Where'd Richard go? There. Keep going.
Well, I have to wait. Oh. These video facts remind us that students today are in the midst of the information age. More than ever before in history, the ability to read and write will determine how far students go in this world. For the most part, people who read and write poorly will be left behind. Simply put, English teacher, author, and researcher Kelly Gallagher says that there is a literacy stampede approaching, and it is bearing down right on top of us. In CFB, we are elevating our students' literacy skills so that they will not be trampled by the literacy stampede. With our district goal of high achievement for all students, writing is a key focus in the English language arts classrooms, as demonstrated by the implementation of Readers Writers Workshop from elementary to high school. Having a system in place to ensure that students are reading, writing, and thinking critically daily prepares students for the high bar dictated by STAR expectations and for the world beyond classroom doors. Here you see a chart that shows the genres required on TAKS and on STAR. For TAKS, students in the tested grades were required to write personal narrative essays only. On STAR, students write 2 essays in 4th grade and 3 essays in the other tested grades. Tests are administered over 2 days within a 4-hour testing window. This is clear evidence of raising the bar. Multiple genres, 2 to 3 essays rather than 1, time and space limitations. For each essay must be written within the constraints of 26 lines or 1,750 characters.
To further elaborate on the difference in the writing, we wanted to share a TAKS prompt, and this was similar across the grade levels with TAKS in 4th, 7th, 10th, and 11th. And the students were simply asked to write an essay. It could be about a time you made an important decision, an important friend in your life, something like that. That would be what their prompt would look like. On the STAR test, all the prompts are formatted the same for grades 4, 7, 9, 10, and 11, and they're required to write 2 essays instead of just 1 in fewer grade levels. With this example, you can see all the prompts are formatted with read, think, write, and be sure to. So you can see it bigger. In the information, and what they'll do is ask the students to read the information below. And in this case, it was the digital audio player, also known as the MP3 player, first became available to the general public in 1996. Unlike the compact disc player, this technology did not require that music be stored on separate discs. MP3 players have now become the dominant medium for listening to music. Think about the new technologies that people use in everyday life. This is where the students are just being asked to think. Where they're being asked to write, what they're used to in their prompt is the third thing down they will see on their prompt. Write an essay explaining the effect of one new technology on people's lives. They can write about any technology. It doesn't have to be about an MP3 player. And what we noticed in our students' writing, many of them that weren't thinking on their own with the critical thinking were jumping and writing about an MP3 player. The creative students were taking it out, how their cell phone impacted their life, some other creative example, and teaching them really how to read that and analyze the prompt.
In addition to really major differences in the kinds of writing and the amount of writing that students are required to do with the new STAR system, the scoring model is completely different. So with TAKS writing, there were 2 people that graded a piece of writing, and they had to come to agreement on whether the piece of writing got a score of 1, 2, 3, or 4. With STAR, again, 2 people grade each piece of writing, but now we have what's called adjacent scoring. So if one person gives a piece of writing a score of 1 and another person gives a piece of writing a score of 2, those 2 are added. Those 2 scores are added for a summed score. So the pieces of writing are graded again on a scale of 1, 2, 3, or 4, but they're given a sum score of those 2 added together. You see an arrow there in the blue line that says basic performance, and you'll see in a minute that the results of our state assessments and our Carrollton Farmers Branch student writing meets basic performance. But what we want is that red bar. What we're looking for is satisfactory performance, so that we've got students whose writing is scored at least at level 3. So that's what we're going for. That's what meets the standard for us.
This slide simply shows how the students must become better and stronger writers as they grow. They must become adept at sharing concisely their views in their essays and become more effective writers over time. As you can see, in 4th grade, the composition percentage is 36%. Once they get to high school, it's up to 52% of their test. So those 2 essays count 52% in high school and just 36% in elementary. The multiple choice percent is comprised of multiple choice questions over revision and editing. And how they ask those questions also changes as the students get older.
So here we're looking at our 4th grade writing data. And so that first percentage that you see there says that the students in Carrollton Farmers Branch, 71% of our students pass the writing assessment. And then with regards to reporting category 1, reporting category 2, and reporting category 3. Reporting category 1 are the actual scores, the summed scores for each piece of writing. So in Carrollton Farmers Branch, the average score, summed score for personal narrative writing was 4.3, and the average summed score for expository writing was 4.1, and essentially tracks along with the state. Reporting category 2 is the multiple choice piece of the assessment, and what that percentage tells you is that in our district, the average percent correct was 68% for reporting category 2, which is the revision category. So it's real important to distinguish between revision and editing. Revision has to do with the students are required to think about how to improve the thinking in the piece of writing. How might the writer say this better? How might the writer combine sentences to make a more effective sentence or idea? The editing category is about the surface features of the piece of writing, which means the student has to be able to recognize incorrect spelling, incorrect punctuation, capitalization, and that sort of thing. So in Carrollton Farmers Branch, the average correct percent for reporting category 3 was 61%.
You can see that the trend continues in 7th grade. Again, we are just, and I won't bother to explain all of that same information, but you can see the scores are pretty much aligned as they were in 4th grade. But CFB scored slightly above the state in 7th grade writing, yet we know we're not where we want to be. During this first administration of STAR, CFB 7th graders scored better than the state on the expository essays. And it's worthy to note that because this is the first year that they have written expository essays. In the past, as I mentioned earlier, it's been the personal narrative. And you can see with the revising and editing, we're right in line with the state with 71% and slightly below with 1 point in editing.
Our 9th graders have never been tested in their English 1 with a state test in writing before. This is a great growth opportunity for us to help them think critically, write concisely. This slide includes hot off the presses information that really we got at 5 o'clock today. We usually share the information from the spring administration that shows the state at 55% and the district at 54%. We just have the cumulative data now because the students could retake the test in the summer and again in December. And that data reflects the state at about 72.6% and the district at 79%. We know there's an implementation dip and have seen this whenever we change a state test from TABS to TOS to TAKS and now to STAR. We are truly, with this test really is more in line with PSAT thinking, the depth of thought that students need in those higher level categories. We will prepare our teachers to help meet our students' needs, as this is already being evidenced with this data with the retest. Once we see where those students are and where we need to get them, that idea of learning takes time is in effect.
So once again, just to reiterate, the scoring model, our students on average are scoring at basic performance in writing, and we know it needs to improve. And again, our goal is certainly satisfactory performance and above.
We want to share the work that we're doing in the district, not only to improve writing for the STAR assessment, but to ensure that our students are not caught off guard in the literacy stampede. Our first secondary literacy night showcased authors and students. Here you see Dan F. Long cheerleaders beginning our program.
We had many volunteers come, and we had people from Barnes & Noble and real authors come and work with the students on writing and reading, and this was just a sample of them talking about the books and what's the latest trends and what they wanted to get. This one, we made sure all students left with a book in their hands, and the parents and the students signed a pledge with what they committed to with reading and how important it is.
Kylene Beers and Robert Probst, national literary experts, tweeted this picture of CFB teachers at the end of the day on a Friday afternoon. You can see that these teachers are totally immersed in writing and learning how to engage their students with research-based strategies.
This training took place January 24th and 25th. Over the beginning of that next week, just last week, we had many teachers email us and share what they were doing with their classes and students. And this is an example of one of the strategies they had shared. And it shows students writing and responding to a reading passage and to each other. And it was neat to see how fast they could put those strategies in place.
This is an example of an anchor chart in an elementary classroom. This is in a 5th grade classroom, and 5th graders are working on writing literary analysis, which is a new kind of writing for 5th graders. But looking forward to what's required in 7th grade and what's required in 9th grade, we need to support students in that effort. So again, this is a chart helping students with language that supports that kind of writing. This is in a 4th grade classroom, and the teacher in this classroom is showing students how to specify their ideas. So here the teacher is showing kiddos how to add information or be more specific in their information, how to revise a piece that's already been written, and how to make it better. This is an example, again, about how to make your writing more explicit. So rather than just telling how you feel, good writers, for instance, show how you feel using sensory language. And here, the teacher is helping students understand how to wrap up a story, that we just don't say the end, that there are ways that effective writers end a piece of writing and pull it all together. We know that students were having difficulty understanding the difference between narrative writing and expository writing. The way the ideas are organized in a narrative piece is quite different than in an expository piece. So in a narrative piece of writing, the personal narrative, children are asked to write a piece that happens over time. It's a story. In expository writing, children are asked to explain by grouping ideas. So they have to explain a central idea that we have that they put out. So this is a chart helping kids understand the differences between those two. And we do teach grammar, and so this is an example of an anchor chart in 4th grade. 4th graders love commas. They'll put them everywhere, and so once they learn about them, and so we're trying to help children know where commas are appropriate.
You heard Dr. Burns earlier talk about the brain research behind writing, but we know that writing is one of the most disciplined ways of making meaning and one of the most effective methods we can use to monitor our own thinking. It helps us to understand our world. Writing is not superficial to the intellectual life, but central to it. Students must write to think and to avoid being trampled in the literacy stampede. CFB students will be able to compete in a global society, for we are teaching them to read, to write, to think, and to collaborate, knowing that the ability to read and write empowers them to become global citizens.
Thank you.
And we thank you, and at this time we want to let you know that we're not doing this work alone. We actually have several specialists who work with us at the elementary, middle, and high school level, and so our specialists are here tonight. Kathy Bridges is an elementary specialist. Anna Winton is an elementary specialist. Allison Risen is an elementary specialist. Our secondary specialist, Ann Thomas, Trista Anderson High School, and Sandy Coffey Middle School.
Thank you.
Ms. Klein, members of the board, I believe these ladies would be happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Board members, are there any questions?
For the record, I'm 45 years old, and I'd like to put commas everywhere as well.
We can make you an anchor chart for that.
I need an anchor chart, yes.
Ms. Watton?
I would just like to comment that I think this is just wonderful, what we're doing with our children in writing today, because so many of my generation think that the children are not learning anything about writing because of computers and all of the technology they have. But my generation, actually, if you weren't in writing for the newspaper, you really didn't get the kinds of writing skills that we're getting today. So I'm just very excited. And I want to say also that my granddaughter is in the dual program, so she's learning all of her writing in Spanish, but she is learning all of these same types of skills in Spanish as the children are learning in English. And I don't think she'll have any problems at all with the STAR exam next year when she has to transfer it over into the English part of it.
Mr. Shore?
When I was in school, the new technology was the ballpoint pen. So my question segues very nicely from what Ms. Watton said. When you use the term writing, are we using a ballpoint pen, or are we using the computer to type words onto a screen?
We are in a balancing act with that right now because our students are expected to test online, so they do need that practice. We do not have enough, I'm not saying anything's wrong with our technology. Our technology needs, they could not type all the time. The writing process requires them to be in their groups conferencing and writing with their pen. And there's been lots of research done on your thought process when you actually write versus writing online.
You said something that piqued my interest.
Okay, I'm scared.
Don't be scared. Okay. It requires them to
Brian,
be
can you get closer to the mic?
It requires them to be in groups?
No, I'm sorry, not the writing process, but when they do the drafting with peer editing, when they get in conferencing stations, a lot of times that will be part of the process at the end, depending on how they use that in class.
And Mr.
I
Shore,
heard your words, but I don't know what you just told me.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Shore, just to add to that, we'd like for you to come to our Writing Institute so that you can see one of the things we're trying to do is to make sure that teachers understand and know how to teach writing. And so part of that is allowing students that flexibility, but also the teacher giving students feedback through individual conferences in the classroom. And so we talk about conferencing, we talk about peer editing, because if you noticed on the STAR, they have a section where they have to look at editing, and all of that's embedded in context. Sure.
I'm going to interrupt you, and I apologize.
All right.
That peer editing scares me, because I heard you say a fifth grader may be editing another fifth grader's work. And my concern is the fifth graders doing the editing may not know what's proper to be done.
But we teach that. Did you see the anchor charts? You know, we do a lot of teaching with them so that they know how to internalize. But then the teacher also does editing as well. But we start with students learning the how-to of it.
And that could be looking at a simple comma rule. We're going to use commas after a state, a city and a state. Look for that in someone's paper, not edit the entire paper for everything under the sun.
What causes me concern, perhaps my concern isn't warranted, but I still have this vision in my mind of one student who, not intentionally, but doesn't know proper grammar, proper sentence structure, the proper placement of commas. And they're going to be telling their co-student something, and that co-student may take it as gospel, and it could be wrong.
But Mr. Shore,
why there's a teacher.
May I interject for a minute? Teachers know who to pair, how to pair their students for success, how to group their students for success. They don't just allow...
Okay, you got me.
Okay.
And with her saying that, and Shirley mentioned it earlier, on the STAR test, it will say, you're in a writing conference, what guidance would you give this writer? And it'll give sentences and how best to fix them. So we have to prepare them for that situation also on how would you guide others. We know those that can teach something to someone else have internalized the information. That's how they're being tested on the revision and editing as well.
And Mr. Shore, if I could add to maybe ease your anxiety a little bit, we're teaching them how to edit prior to that. So it's a very controlled environment in the skills that you're working on to transfer to the other kids. And as they said, the teachers are monitoring all that at the same time. So it's very structured. It's not a loose environment where you might be editing and saying things that might not be true down the road.
Okay. I want to regurgitate a line that I read about 2 nights ago from a book I'm reading right now entitled The Generals. But you could probably entitle it The Superintendents and have the same meaning. Yeah. And it deals with military, generals. And one of the deficiencies of the military from the 70s to current time, that's the 1970s, was we were training soldiers, we weren't educating them. And I want the little impact I can have, I want us to be educating our students, not training them. I think we are educating, not training.
Definitely.
We are.
Good point.
Sounded good.
Yeah, it did sound good.
Right. And again, you might want to come to the Writing Institute so that you can see the kinds of things that we're doing with teachers so that they can in turn work with their students and do the same
If I
kinds
could
of
observe that without the participants knowing that somebody with a tie with white hair is observing,
Now
I'd like to do that.
that might be
Come in your running outfit from Casey Brooks.
Still have white hair.
We'll Skype it for you.
Okay, that would be cool.
I will affirm what Ms. Watton said. I get to hear about the essays my child is writing in school and the teeth grinding that goes along with it, but I do think the practice is necessary while even as adults we may gripe also. So it is happening. Are there any other comments or questions?
Just a quick question.
Mr. Good?
You're using, I'm going to use the term loosely, tools to help students, both primary and secondary, develop these writing skills. But I guess my question centers around what is it in tools that you do not have access to that you feel like could make a strong difference in the lives of some of these students?
Their parents telling the kids to read at night.
And write.
Right. Well, since you asked, one of the things, time is very important as we think about having enough time to teach students writing, because writing takes time. In addition to that, as we know that students have to have more access to computers, several years ago we had My Access, and that was a way to help kids get immediate feedback. So that's another possibility, and always books. And that's why we made sure that all students received a free book during the literacy night, because we know that students learn the craft of writing through reading. And reading and writing are recursive processes, and we need both of those. And so all the things you can do to help us with that would make a tremendous difference.
And addressing Frank's comment about, getting the right feedback to kids, having the My Access gave them feedback without worrying about a classmate doing it. They would get some of that if the teacher couldn't get to them knowing their class sizes. That's one of the issues, being able to conference and get that individual feedback to them.
Thank you for your presentation. I think that's it. We appreciate it, Dr.
Ms. Klein, members of the board, I would like to recognize again our great team out there and give them a hand, because they work tirelessly in those buildings. I see them all the time. They're working like crazy.
At this time, we're at Agenda Item 3, Board Operations. 3A is Audience for Guests. Ms. Scrivener, do we have any audience for guests?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. So now we'll be moving to 3B, Consent Agenda. The consent agenda is a mechanism that the board uses to approve a number of routine items together with a single vote. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the public notice for this meeting includes the list of all consent agenda items, and the board has been provided ample information about these items in advance. Prior to any action taken on the consent agenda, board members may request withdrawal of individual items for clarification or discussion. Board members, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda at this time? Mr. Shore.
I said we remove agenda item B11.
I was going to remove item B15. Are there any other items to be removed? So,
Ms. Klein, if
yes,
I may.
Ms. Chaffin?
I move that we pass the consent agenda as amended.
Mr. Shore?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank y'all. So item number 11, Mr. Shore?
Thank you, Madam President. This deals with considering the approval of purchasing some information from an entity called ERG. And I have some knowledge of what ERG is, but I want to make certain that the population knows. And so, Dr. Burns, I'm going to pose to you, what is or who is ERG?
Okay. Mr. Short, I'm glad you asked. Glad you asked. You've heard us say that many times.
The only person who says that glad.
You've heard us refer to ERG, that acronym, many times, and the actual words are Education Resource Group, and it is a private company out of Houston they're a bunch of statisticians who have a passion for education and performance management. So they have a very sophisticated data analysis program to collect information from an academic perspective as well as a financial perspective. We get both of those. And they crunch a lot of numbers. They use the most current and valid research regarding academic achievement in the world, much less in Texas, regarding the percentage of economically disadvantaged students that a district serves. And they do some sophisticated analysis to come up with an index, okay? An academic index, a financial index, and an overall index. And they rank you. In other words, it's relative to how everybody else is doing. And we've been using them for several years because we think it's a good performance management tool for us as administration as well as our board to look for as accountability, to say how we're doing compared to the districts in the state of Texas. I'll tell you one more fact about them that I think is very relevant is that they rank us with the 200 largest school districts in Texas. Those 200 largest school districts, as you might ascertain, educate the majority of the kids in Texas, about 75%. So it ranks us based on those academic measures, and it also ranks us based on some financial measures, and then it tells us where we fall in that system.
Let me ask you a couple more questions. We have a rather diverse population.
Yes, sir.
There are some other districts that don't have the diversity that we have. Is ERG capable of ranking us with other districts, even if the other districts' populations are not the same as ours?
I'm also glad you asked that question. Because what's attractive to us about this particular performance management tool is that it does level the playing field based on your demographics. Okay?
What does that mean?
Particularly in this case, the demographic of percentage of economically disadvantaged students. So I think what Mr. Shore was asking was, does it take into consideration you're serving a different population? Population that may be, in some terms, considered easier to educate because of their background. And as we know in the research, kids coming from poverty have a hard climb. Have a hard climb, and a lot of the things that we do in this district is to address their needs, as well as our kids that have high academic, giftedness. But it's about really looking at all the kids that you serve and understanding that some are a little tougher to educate or have a greater need than others. So it does level the playing field, and it takes into consideration. So I think to answer your question directly is, it lets us compete no matter what your population looks like.
And do they crunch the numbers on every district in the state?
Yes, sir.
So if this board determines that we should approve this and thus pay the money to get this information, that's not a bribe. We're up because they're subscribing to our information. We're going to bump them up in the rankings.
That's absolutely correct, Mr. Shore. They're a private group, and whether it doesn't matter what you pay, you're going to get ranked based on everybody, and whether they pay or not, they're still going to get ranked.
And this just gives us access to the information.
Exactly. Gives us access to the information at a much deeper level as well. I refer to the index as being a ranking and a number, but we get many, many layers of information underneath that to help us benchmark and really find out where the best practices are, what districts are getting the best results in certain areas, and then we go drill down even further to find out what they're doing. So, but it makes no difference whether you're a paying customer or not, you're going to get ranked.
Thank you, Dr. Burns.
Is there any action anybody would like to take on this item? Mr. Shore?
I move that we approve agenda item B11.
Ms. Watton? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? The motion is unanimous.
Ms. Klein, if I might add to Mr. Shore, in case he's thinking this question, he didn't ask it yet, so he's thinking this question is, when will we know what that ranking is, right? That's your next question. And
No, that was not my next question.
Okay.
My next question was, besides the district, what else can we look at? But I'll not ask that question right now.
Okay. We will come back in April. We hope that we'll have the final analysis of that data from the ERG group, and we will bring you a presentation in April regarding the state's accountability data as well as the ERG ranking.
Board members, I pulled item B15 because I was not at the work study meeting at 6 p.m. on January 17th. Is there anyone that was there that would consider making a motion? Mr. Shore?
I move that we approve agenda item B15.
Thank you, Mr. Shore. Ms. Watton, thank you for your second. All those in favor? And let the record show that Ms. Chaffin and I did not vote on that. Thank you. That is unanimous other than that. Agenda item 4, comments by board members. 4A, comments regarding posted agenda items. Do any of you have comments you wish to make regarding matters discussed this evening? I just want to mention that agenda item B7 regarding the approval of the election order. Last year, the Board of Trustees had a session to go over what is involved in being a member of the Board of Trustees for anybody interested in running for Board of Trustee. We have scheduled one for February 12th at 7 p.m., and that is next Tuesday here in the boardroom if anybody is interested in attending. Any other comments from board members? Mr. Shore, don't yawn. We are now at agenda item, hearing none and seeing none, our next order of business is agenda item 5, closed meeting. Closed meeting is authorized under Texas Government Code, including but not limited to section 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, real property, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, security devices, 551.082, school children, district employees, disciplinary matter or complaint, 551.0821, personally identifiable student information, 551.084, investigation. Agenda item 5A is report on district security strategies and protocol in accordance with Texas Government Code, section 551.076, deliberations regarding security devices or security audits. At this time, we will be going into closed session. We'll take a brief recess. It is 8:25, and we'll be reopening in closed session. Thank you.
Let's do that. Let's do it.
Ms. Mr.
No,
Shore.
but I thought you showed me something. Video or something, you showed it to me on the...
Angela says she's ready.
Basically,
We reconvene this meeting in an open session at 9:46 PM for Agenda Item 6, which is reconvene for public meeting to vote on matters considered in closed meeting. Board members, was there anything discussed in closed session that needs board action?
No.
Nope.
No.
Now, board members, are there any other matters from closed session? Oh, never mind. Hearing none and seeing none, we are, by determination, we reached the end of our agenda and we are adjourned at 9:47 PM.